Golf Central. Brought to you by Titleist.
Our headlines Wednesday, August 30th. We are ready for the second event of the FedEx Cup playoffs, the Dell Technology Championship. TPC Boston, 96 of the top 100 in the FedEx Cup standings are playing this week. The exceptions, Henrik Stenson, J.B. Holmes, Scott Piercy, and Brandt Snedeker. Only 70 survive, advancing to the BMW Championship a couple weeks in Conway Farms in Illinois. And yes, this is the last week to earn points for the United States and the international teams for the President's Cup. The top 10 qualifying points. 2 captains' picks for each team will be made next week. And with that, we welcome you into Golf Central. I'm Ryan Burr, soon to be joined by Billy Kratzer. We begin in Boston, where the playoffs continue riding a huge wave of momentum from last week's opening playoff event in New York. We start tonight with Heather Cox, who caught up with last week's runner-up, Jordan Spieth.
Jordan, you're coming off of a runner-up finish last week. You lost in a playoff, so how does Sunday's experience, how can you use that to your advantage and as fuel this week?
Well, yeah, it was a tough loss, so I'm obviously itching to be back in the winner's circle because I could pretty much taste it there, right? Dustin had to make about a 15-footer. Otherwise, I'm sitting there thinking that I'd won the tournament. So it happens. We've had some good battles, he and I. We've kind of split them 50-50, and I come into this week, in form. I feel like I'm in form, and therefore I take that very confidently into a place I'm familiar with.
In 2013, your rookie year, you came here, shot a final round 62. Since then, you've been solid, but maybe not up to your standards.
Sure.
So what are you looking for from this course this week?
I've got to play the easier holes better, these par 5s, and then we get a drivable hole, and then we get number 17, another wedge hole. And that's really where I've struggled the last couple of years, is trying to do too much on those holes instead of just playing them for percentage birdies. Other than that, that's where you start to score on the golf course. And the course is difficult at times. It'll show its teeth this week with some wind and some colder weather. But we know we have to get to about 16 under, so I've been trying to force it a little bit instead of letting the course come to me. So it's more about patience than anything.
Now, Jordan, you are a Dallas guy. A lot going on in the country this week that's bigger than golf. What kind of perspective has Hurricane Harvey put on you and your golf?
Well, it's totally separate from the golf. I mean, totally separate. Obviously wishing well. I don't have any family in Houston, but certainly friends that I know had to evacuate, and obviously the heroes are the first responders, and we're trying to do all we can to obviously make sure that the largest amount of people can be in the best shape possible, and then as this weather clears up down there, slowly get back to their homes and kind of get back to the way of life that they had before. But just a tragedy and tough for the state of Texas, but there's a lot of good going on right now.
And Jordan Spieth certainly going good. Taking a look at the FedEx Cup standings, the top 10. And no surprise, Dustin Johnson off his win is number 1. There's Jordan, number 2. Our PGA Championship winner, Justin Thomas, 3. Johnny Vegas, Charlie Hoffman, 9-10. Top 10 always looking good, trying to get to the Tour Championship. Of course, the cut after this week is the top 70. It is time for 3 on the tee. We are indeed joined by PGA Tour winner Billy Kratzer. Our insider is Tim Rosaford, our contributor Matt Adams. All right, guys, I think you know where we're going here, right? We want winners. We want winners. Dustin Johnson, that'd be an easy pick. So let's take him off the board. Give me who you got your eye on this week, Billy?
I'm going to go with Jon Rahm. And there's something about when Dustin Johnson starts playing well, Jon Rahm also plays well. You look at the 2 WGCs, Mexico, he finished runner-up. He finished runner-up in the match play. But the reason I like Jon Rahm, this is the tee shot on number 3 last week. By the way, it's 300 at number 1 to carry that bunker. And then to go in there with a 6-iron.
You're losing your breath, Billy.
Back hole location, Rahm takes it in there. One of the few players I saw able to get it back in that section of the green. And guess what? There are streaks. There are times when Jon Rahm putts as well as anyone. Now, I know he's won for the only one time on the PGA Tour, Torrey Pines. He's won on the European Tour. I just think that going forward, when I look at a guy sitting at number 5 in the FedEx Cup, He's also number 5 in the official world golf rankings. I just think he has that flair. He has that energy. And now that he sees Dustin Johnson up there, he's going to go and he's going to say, you know what? I'm going to run you down again, big boy. I'm going to make you work.
I'm going to go to the other end of the spectrum. You went with youth. I'm going to go with a veteran campaigner in Charlie Hoffman, a 4-time winner on the PGA Tour. If you go back 8 events for Charlie Hoffman, that would be going back to the U.S. Open. He's had 3 top 3s. 6 of those 8 events, he has been in the top 20. Remember, 8th at the U.S. Open at Erin Hills, tied for 20th at the Open at Royal Birkdale. And don't forget, he shot a 65 in the opening round of the Masters and was a factor there as well through the first 3 rounds. So form is the first reason why I'm going with him. Number 2, he's hungry. He's trying to hold on to that President's Cup bid that he right now could automatically qualify if it ended today. It's not going to end today. It's going to end, though, on Monday. So he's trying to hold on to that as well. He's ranked 20th in the world, the highest in his career, and he has history at TPC Boston. He shot a 62 in this year, 2010, that you're watching right now to win there. I think, Rosie, if there's a secret to it, he's traveling with his wife, Stacy, traveling with their 2 young girls, and he said that when you're with the kids, it's hard to bring home what you did on the golf course. It's hard to worry about what you did out there. So he's at ease.
I'm going down the grid, too, and I'm going to lean in just the way Kratzer did and make a point on Kevin Chappell. You know why? Because
it helps.
He finally won this year in his 280th appearance. He's coming off a T6 finish at the Northern Trust. And you go back in past history up to TPC Boston, shot 67-64 last year to lead after 36 holes, ended up finishing T8. But I'm not taking him, guys, because of FedEx Cup points. I'm taking him for President's Cup points because last year he felt like he should have been the pick for Davis Love. He went with Ryan Moore instead. He's 11th in President's Cup point standing points right now, and he's a guy who I think would be a big asset to the team that Steve Stricker is going to take up to New York.
No doubt about it.
Lean in when you say it, too.
You got to
get in there.
Maybe give it a point. When you're talking horses for courses, there's no bigger horse on this course than Rory, defending champ, who really started springboard his run last year. McIlroy, no wins. What's the expectation from you 3 on the defender?
I anticipate Rory to play well. It's a golf course that he feels comfortable on. Length is going to be a huge asset for him. There's only 3 par 5s, but he's going to be able to reach every par 5 and 2 easily. And I just think if he becomes more engaged mentally and he really wants it and really goes after it, I think Rory is going to be a contender this week.
Only a couple multiple-time winners at TPC Boston. He is one of them. Obviously feels good at the venue.
And he's going to shut it down real soon after this is over, so he might as well give it all he's got. You're right. It seems more mental than physical, but he's saying it's physical, so we got to believe it.
It will be interesting. If it doesn't play well here, it's tough to think that he's going to find it by the end of these FedEx Cup playoffs. Now, remember, only the top 70 in the FedEx Cup standings will advance to the BMW Championship. And for more on that bubble, as we get those 70s, we go live to Boston and say hello to Heather Cox. Hello, Heather.
Hello, Ryan. Those hovering around that 70 bubble heading into this week's Dell Technologies Championship know that they must perform. But what's interesting is when talking to those players today that are those, quote, bubble players, is that each of them are taking that challenge with a different mentality on how they'll take to the course this week with that additional pressure of perform or go home. Some will be number crunching daily, others ignore the stats and just focus on their game. And some say, I look at it like every other tournament. All I can control is how I play, and I want to go out and win.
It really gets to feel like a playoff now. I mean, you either play good or you go back home. But I don't know. I'm embracing the challenge. Obviously, I am aware that with the point system as it is, you don't need an absolutely extraordinary week. You just need to play good.
Probably after the cut, I'll kind of see where I'm at, where the projections are, and then that'll kind of gauge, how much I have to put the pedal down on the weekend, or if I can kind of cruise in or whatever. Because the main goal is to make it to Chicago, because then from there you can kind of move on. But, if you're playing well, you're going to try to win the golf tournament too.
You got to take advantage of your hot streaks, and if you can do that, you can have a good season, and in this case, you can have a good playoffs. So I'm outside the next rung of the ladder, and I need to perform pretty well here to get in, and it'd be fun to give myself the challenge to do that.
I don't feel like I have too much to lose. So, I feel this is a course I've made a lot of birdies at in the past and can go out and kind of freewheel it. And if things go great, I'd love to get to Chicago. It's where I'm from, so that'd mean a lot to get to that event. But if not, I get to go home and be with my family for a month, which is good as well.
I'd love to play well, but sure would be nice to go home and have a couple of weeks as an off season. I don't consider the 5 weeks off that we get from Thanksgiving to New Year's and off season. I went into it with the attitude last week. If I played well, great. If I didn't, darn, I get to go home and spend time with my kids. So, we're here. We're going to try as hard as we can, and if I play well, great. And if not, we'll go home and start the off season early.
Now, if you're wondering how often players outside of the top 70 heading into the second playoff event actually play their way into the BMW Championship, well, over the last 5 years, 31 players have played their way in. So yes, Ryan, it does happen.
Thanks, Heather. So you're saying there's a chance. Who has the edge to move from the outside into the top 70? We'll tell you who will advance on in the FedEx Cup playoffs. Plus, it is the last week to make the President's Cup team on points. We examine the bubble that the captains are paying attention to, and it is a way back Wednesday. We go back to TPC Boston and capture some of the great moments from the FedEx Cup playoffs.
Golf Central is brought to you by the new Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1X. Choose the best for your game. Comcast Business, built for business.